Okay, I would like to welcome, and I'm very excited about this, to the Life with the Lionesses project with the women in Rugby League, Michaela Hirst, who is just a legend in Rugby League and a legend whose story has never actually been told. From Bramley originally, in Leeds, played Rugby League for a lot of her life from about being 15, 16, played for the initial one of the pioneering teams, Guiseley, who were one of the first teams in the Women's League in the 1980s. Eventually then took up coaching, became the coach at Hunslet and coached for many years within Rugby League, but also was very involved in one, which I'm very excited about because we've not got many on this series, in the 1989 Tour to France. As well as being in a lot of the county games that were played in the 1980s and 1990s, the rivals Yorkshire v Lancashire. This is a long list, by the way, everyone. And also her involvement with the Great Britain Lionesses, which, although she was in the train on squad and a very talented player, never actually got on the tour until 2003 as coach of the World Series. So welcome, Michaela, after that very long introduction.
Thank you.
So
Nice
tell us a bit about how you got involved in Rugby League and, starting up at Guiseley and all that sort of stuff.
Well, it was just, I had a friend that I'd been to school with from it, probably been little 5, 6, I think, called Helen, affectionately known as Nelly in the rugby circles.
Oh, a lot of people will know Nelly from the past.
Yeah, like I said, the best player that I've probably ever played with, and just didn't appreciate how good she was, I don't think. And so sad that she wasn't interested in taking up playing for county, let alone England or Great Britain, because she was wick at the right step on a side step that you never see. You still don't see it these days, you know. But yeah, so anyway, I kind of kept in contact with her, and I took her to hockey because I played hockey for a team. And then one week she says, "Do you fancy playing rugby?" And I kind of said, "What's that?" Even though I lived in Bramley that had a very successful rugby league team, I kind of never knew anything about rugby. I didn't even know what a rugby ball was. So yeah, she took me along to a training session. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And then we got picked up at Rodley Roundabout on a Sunday morning to go somewhere, maybe Crossfields, I think, on this rickety old team bus. And yeah, that was just fantastic. I loved it from the minute I set foot on that field. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. I would put on the wing, catch ball, run like hell.
So did you do any training sessions then before you actually, or did they just pick you up on the bus first and say you're going to play?
I think I did one training session, and then literally got picked up Sunday morning. Off we went.
And this was for Guiseley, wasn't it?
It was Guiseley Angels, yeah.
Yeah. And as I say, they were actually one of the pioneering teams. So at that time, there wasn't many teams to play, was there? So
No, not all. There were 3 of us, and I can remember vividly, playing these 2 teams. Dudley Hill, who we had this almighty, I don't know, love-hate relationship. We both loved and hated each other. So, yeah, it was always a little bit of a grudge match. And then Crossfields at Warrington, and I think we we're quite friendly with Warrington, or the Crossfields as they were known then. We kind of got on really, really well with Crossfields. As much so, like, obviously they came to my 18th birthday party. I think about six of them crashed at my mum's. So yeah, we all had a bit of a whale of a time.
And how old were you then when you first started playing rugby?
I think I was 15, 16. Probably more to 16. I know, like, some of my photographs, 1987 is the earliest I've got. So yeah, probably at least 16.
Yeah. So you sort of started off playing, and then the county came around. So tell us a bit more about a lot of women didn't get involved in the county, but you actually were there right from the start.
Yeah, I felt like I, I certainly was involved in just about every county game for quite a long time, until I kind of got to that age where I thought I was probably too old for it. I could see younger whippersnappers running around. So, but no, that were we had trials every year, and it did get to a stage where the Great Britain team weren't allowed to trial, or certainly weren't allowed to play for the county squad, because I think they were trying to develop other players, and I kind of get that to a certain extent, because it did give other people that opportunity that they wouldn't necessarily have had. Because if you get a team full of Great Britain players, and it kind of, yeah, it just, I think it kind of helped in development of the sport, although it never feels like it at the time.
Mm. So
But
tell
no,
us a bit about where some of the county games were played then.
well, two of the most important ones, I believe, were played at Old Trafford in front of a massive, massive crowd, probably, I think, 40,000. We played at half time, which obviously is quite a small window. And I think, if I remember rightly, it was something like 7 minutes each way, maybe 10 minutes at a push. So they weren't exactly massive games, but Yorkshire always beat Lancashire. So, yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So they're the two that stand out. And I think in 1991, definitely big games.
Yeah, yeah, it was huge for the women's game as well. You've also got record of playing in the British Coal Nines, taking a team.
Yeah, that were, did I say 1987? I think
Yeah.
that was. So 1987 and 1988, I believe. Yeah, British Coal actually sponsored a men's nine-a-side tournament, and we managed to get invited. And I don't even know how that came about, but I felt like a superstar. There were kids coming up to me, afterwards and asking for my autograph, and they were like, "Me, sign anything?" I don't even think I could sign my name at that age, but I tried. But yeah, that was massive, absolutely massive. Loved it, and they gave us a kit. So one year we had the yellow kit, and the following year we got the navy blue kit. And on the other team, Crossfields, they got the opposite colour. So navy blue one year, yellow the next. And those kits lasted for years. They had to, because we didn't get no sponsorship. So, we played in those kits all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And can you remember the early days then of having to sort of self-fund yourself and going away and playing and the training and things like that?
Yeah, yeah. I think sort of that 1989 tour to France, I know we all had to cough up, I want to say something like 100 quid, which I think back then were a decent amount of money. But we went on a boat. We went for a long weekend, I think. Yeah, did. I'm sure we went something like on a Friday and came back on Monday. Um, yeah, and like I said, I can remember Lisa Mack. We went to the toilet because she wasn't feeling too good. Sickness, and she was a little bit green around the gills, which are very, very funny. Yeah, fond memories.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you went across to France, and unfortunately, what happened when you got there? Tell us a bit more about that.
I don't think the French team was up to a standard that we were probably used to. I think they've been playing touch and pass, for quite some time, at least that year anyway.
Mm.
So they had a French squad, but not up to any standard. So, kind of reading back in some of my memorabilia, the we we played in a sevens tournament against them, and we won it. We put 3 teams in, and we won. We came first, second, and third. So that kind of gives you an idea of the level of the playing capabilities of the French team. Weren't very good.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was still, we played in a massive stadium. We put a Great Britain strip on that Barlow had provided, and then there's also a photograph of like the GB v France, but it was two GB teams playing
Right.
against each other. In I think we played in Toulouse or somewhere around that
Oh,
region.
wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I've got a photograph of one team in blue, one in white. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
because you
was
didn't actually play contact, did you? So you then had to play each other to get your fix of that physicality.
yeah, 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 definitely.
Yeah, and obviously it's so important in history, this tour, because actually that was the start of so much more as well, wasn't it? Yes, it's not a full international, but actually it was the start of the women beginning to go on tours and
Yeah,
representing the country.
yeah, because definitely, I think we all had to trial for that. They picked a squad of 31 out of quite a big number of people that trained. I mean, I've got that. Do you want to look at that photograph?
Please do.
That's the
Look at that, everyone. That's the first ever international
yeah. So
team,
they're the
Great Britain
people
team.
I think they're people that actually trialed for it,
Yeah,
and then they picked a 31 person squad out of that. Yeah, so that was really, really good. And
yeah,
you felt like you'd been given a place in the GB squad, and obviously once we got to France, it weren't what we expected, but
yeah.
we felt we were GB players, especially when we got us GB kit. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and an important mark for the history of the women's sport, wasn't it? So you
oh
then took up coaching. So you moved from Guiseley, didn't you, and you set up Hunslet, which was a really successful women's club again.
yeah,
Sort of playing along for those, and a real key. You've played a real key part in the history of rugby league in Leeds, and also in women's rugby league, because you got very involved in the county, not just as a player, did you? You then moved into coaching.
yeah, and managing the Yorkshire team. Yeah, I kind of fobbed the coaching of the Yorkshire team off onto somebody. I got friends, or I knew like Gary Lord, who used to play for the Leeds before they were the Rhinos. His daughter used to play down at Cas Panthers, and I used to coach her, so I got quite friendly with him and his wife. And yeah, I asked him one year if he'd coach, and he jumped at the chance. I think he enjoyed himself anyway.
Yeah,
You know, he picked me up one day and went over to Hull to watch a game over there. I think it were kind of him just trying to get used to the women's game and have a look at it and kind of look
mm,
at the standards. So yeah, and then another guy called Paul. I think it was Paul Hazelwood. His name kind of gone amiss at the minute, but
yeah.
yeah, he did it. I can't remember if that was probably before Gary or after. I'm not sure, but I think he'd been involved with Leeds coaching. The school championships and things like that.
Yeah,
They've
yeah,
just then. So it was, a good standard of coaching, kind of probably better than what we'd had in the past. I
yeah.
mean, at one point, I even got Lee Crooks and Jason Ramshaw.
Ah, from Keighley.
Yeah, yeah, Jason Ramshaw, and then he had a mate, and I can't remember his name for the life of me. But I ended up working with his mum. Funnily enough, a few years down the line. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So two Keith lads helped us out as well one year. That was a good year, but I was still playing then, so
Mm.
I can't remember years.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah. But a
oh,
long, rich history, haven't you? I've just been trying to work out over 35 years, Michaela, you were involved in rugby league and still have an involvement through, tentatively at the moment, through Masters.
a small involvement at the minute, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of a social event, when we get else. But
So,
definitely before COVID, yeah, Masters, when we got back together, it was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
yeah. So you trialled for Great Britain, but as we sort of said at the beginning, and from my memory, you were one of the best halfbacks in the women's game, but for whatever reason, you know, you didn't actually make it on the first couple of tours, but you did in 2003 go as an assistant coach. Tell us a bit more about that tour to Australia, and it was a World Cup, wasn't it, year where we had the most ever teams playing in that World Cup.
Yeah, so I got lucky, or you know, just like my best friend Dylan at the time, he was the assistant coach at Great Britain, and unfortunately, during one of our training sessions down at Hunslet, he did something to his knee. I'm going to say it's his cruciate ligament, probably. Unable to walk, hardly, you know, certainly not run, and couldn't go to New Zealand. So Jackie approached me and asked me if I'd be willing to step in and help out. And I jumped at chance, really. I thought, yeah, this is my last shot, I suppose. My only shot at going as part of the Women's Rugby League team. So yeah, I jumped at that chance and went to New Zealand. And again, that were self-funded. And I think we had to raise £1,000. But I think because I'd been asked or invited at the last minute, I think they only asked me to get half of it. So yeah, I managed to find £500.
So how much notice did you have before you went then?
I don't think it was a great deal. I'm going to say maybe a couple of months at maximum. And where I was working at the time, I managed to let me have some time off. I think I had to take some time off unpaid as well, because I think I only got 4 weeks paid leave, and I probably had a big chunk of that already.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you're off and you're going to coach internationals. What was it like in Australia and going across there?
New Zealand. Went to New Zealand.
I mean, sorry, sorry, that's 2003.
It was fantastic to be part of the squad. You know, again, it's just a fantastic feeling. You know, sort of training and playing, training every day. I didn't quite like the regime. I felt like I was, I don't know, felt like I was probably in prison sometimes. But I know that's all part and parcel of the game. So you kind of had to train at certain times to get used to playing at that time. But you know, spending some quality time with some fabulous players that I'd played alongside and against, you know, Yorkshire and even sort of the England Wildcats team that I'd kind of created as well. I had a big involvement in that. So we'd played against some of the GB teams over the years to give them some games. But no, it was a fantastic experience. And I think, you know, playing on that bigger stage, especially in different countries, that makes you appreciate it even more. And kind of having that support, you know, from RFL, that made a huge difference. Even though it wasn't as much back then as it is, especially as it is now. Yeah, and I'm so jealous now, but I don't want to be back playing now. I'm too old.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on the Wildcats, but they were really instrumental, weren't they, the Wildcats in Great Britain's preparation?
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
there's no opposition, was there, at this side for them to be able to play?
No, and I think I took Teddy out at cop by not being selected for the Great Britain team, and then I became instrumental in setting up the Wildcats. So yeah, and we managed to get different coaches, and I can't remember where I got those coaches from, but we got kit as well, a nice kit. Wakefield Wildcats kindly said that we could use their logo. So yeah, England Wildcats were born.
Yeah. And as I say, very instrumental because, and it's still really the same in the Northern Hemisphere. There's no real international competition that tests the now teams, is there? Ready for when you go to Australia and New Zealand, which is hard and physical.
No, and I don't know what the France team is like now. I don't really. I don't keep in touch with the goings on really of Rugby League nowadays. apart from the odd thing that I do see about, you know,
Yeah,
the Leeds Rhinos and York that are doing quite well at the minute.
yeah. And obviously your job, which you know, we can't go amiss around that, around, you know, what you do in the prison service, and it seems throughout the UK, you know, you work around the prison service, don't you? Which is
I do, yeah. And I helped Natalie Harrowell get a job in the prison service. Obviously, sadly, she died
mm,
quite tragically. But she'd left the prison service by that and gone back to get a job in rugby league. Obviously, her true passion.
mm,
But yeah, no, I love my job. Love being a prison officer. Yeah, and I've worked kind of all over the country, a lot in London, but I'm based up in Newhall. I work with I work with women, and sadly, I've come across two people that not necessarily. I did play with one of them, but the other was a daughter of somebody I played with. Give me a bit of street cred anyway.
And actually, do you think, you know, your life in you know, your skills in rugby league has helped with your career?
Yeah, definitely because I can talk to anybody really, and I always probably have done. I
Mm,
think I was shy growing up, but rugby it does make you talk to other people. So you know, obviously my job now, I have to talk to all kinds of people from all kinds of walk of life. So yeah, certainly helped,
mm.
definitely.
Yeah. So when you reflect on what you've achieved, you know, this has got everybody's grey matters working about, sort of looking back in history of what you've achieved. What's your thoughts around what you've done in rugby league?
I think I'm quite proud in um, sort of creating my own team and coaching my own team, and then and we did great things in our first year. You know, at Hunslet, that was we did fantastic. Admittedly, we did have quite a lot of experience, but we were in 9-a-side then, so we had 9 really good players, and we just kind of whitewashed everybody that we played. And then when we got promoted into the first division, I think one of our very first outings was against Wakefield, and we kind of held our own, you know, and we didn't do too badly. Yeah, we got beat, but we certainly didn't get whitewashed like we were expecting, or like maybe other teams were expecting. So I think Hunslet's probably my biggest achievement. And then we did come on. We then moved to Milford, and Milford were probably my fondest memories at Milford. I think we had a really good team at Milford, a good team socially as well as we were all good friends. So yeah, that probably a highlight. But then playing for Yorkshire year in year out, I loved that. Obviously, beating Lancashire every single time. I think there was just one time that Lancashire beat us, and that was kind of towards the latter end of my career. But every year apart from that, we beat Lancashire. So
Yeah.
that's definitely sweet.
Yeah. And you have been a mainstay, as I say, within rugby league. When you look at women's sport, but also particularly women's rugby league,
Mm.
what have you got to say to those that are sort of taking part of it now?
Oh, I'm so jealous. So jealous because, you know, Leeds Rhinos, when I was looking to try and create a team in Leeds, I wrote to Leeds Rhinos, I wrote to Hunslet, and I wrote to quite a few clubs. And in all honesty, Leeds Rhinos were not interested in the slightest. Um, so yeah, we went to Hunslet. Hunslet welcomed us with open arms. We even played at Ellen Road as a curtain raiser to a Hunslet game. Admittedly, there had probably about 150 people watching, but better than none.
Mm,
So yeah, I think they need to think themselves lucky.
mm.
You know, I don't know, kind of. I know, like international getting things paid for now, aren't they? So that's a massive, massive leap. And just keep enjoying it, enjoy it, and yeah, take it seriously when you need to, but enjoy it. And I think that's you make lifelong friends from it, and they're more important than anything. Because once you stop playing, that is it. it. You do lose touch, but there will be some people that will always remain, and you've got to keep hold of them, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Michaela, thank you. Thank you for your time. As I say, one of the pioneers with from those early days of women's rugby league, and just being true to your roots in Leeds, you know, successful as a player and a coach, and also how much you've done for the sport, for, you know, the not just the county games, but also sort of the Wildcats, which, you know, is a bedrock of the Great Britain, and then being able to go on tour in 2003. I want to
Mm.
thank you for all you've done, and you are a legend within Leeds, which an unsung legend of which this hopefully will begin to change, that people will begin to hear about you and all the great work you've done in the sport. So thank you very much.
Thank you.